It's a routine landing on the USS Carl Vinson, an FA-18 Super Hornet, call sign 201, is on final approach. Speed, 140 knots. Altitude, 600 feet. Everything looks normal. Then the landing signal officer sees it. The jet is coming in too fast, too high. The angle is wrong. He screams into the radio, "Wave off! Wave off!" But it's too late. The jet slams into the flight deck. The tailhook misses all four arresting wires. 70 tons of metal and fuel skid across wet steel at 150 miles per hour. And then it slides off the edge into the South China Sea. $70 million. Gone in 6 seconds. And this wasn't the only time. Between January and July 2022, the United States Navy lost 3 fighter jets in operational accidents. Not to enemy fire, not in combat, just accidents. 3 FA-18 Super Hornets, each one worth approximately $70 million. Total loss, over $210 million of taxpayer money sitting at the bottom of the ocean. But the money isn't even the worst part. 7 crew members were injured. 2 pilots had to eject at high speed, a process so violent it compresses your spine by up to an inch. You're never the same after. The Navy launched investigations into all 3 incidents. What they found wasn't mechanical failure. It wasn't bad weather. It wasn't enemy action. It was something much harder to fix. Let's go through each incident, one by one. January 24th, 2022. The South China Sea. The USS Carl Vinson, a Nimitz-class supercarrier, is conducting routine flight operations. It's the middle of a deployment. The crew has been at sea for weeks. They're tired, but the mission doesn't stop. Lieutenant Commander James Reed, not his real name, the Navy redacted identities, is flying the last sortie of the day. His FA-18E Super Hornet, Bureau number 165207, has been performing fine all day. The approach starts normally. He lines up behind the carrier, follows the glide slope indicator, the so-called meatball, a system of lights that tells the pilot if they're too high, too low, or on target. But somewhere in the last 8 seconds, something goes wrong. The jet comes in too fast. The nose attitude is slightly off. The landing signal officer calls for a wave-off, but the jet is already over the deck. The tail hook touches down but bounces over all 4 arresting wires. This is called a bolter. It happens. Normally, the pilot hits full throttle and goes around for another attempt. But this time, the jet doesn't climb. It veers left, slides across the wet deck, hits a safety stanchion, and goes over the side. The pilot ejects at the last second. He's recovered from the water with non-life-threatening injuries. 6 deck crew are also hurt, hit by debris, knocked down by the jet blast. The aircraft sinks in roughly 12,000 feet of water. $70 million, gone. 3 months later, April 2022, the Mediterranean Sea. This time, it's the USS Harry S. Truman, another Nimitz-class carrier, operating as part of NATO's response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Tempo is high. The air wing is flying more sorties than planned. Pilots are exhausted. Maintenance crews are working double shifts. An FA-18F Super Hornet, the two-seat variant, is launching from catapult number 3. The pilot and weapons systems officer are strapped in. The catapult fires. In 1.2 seconds, the jet accelerates from 0 to 165 miles per hour. That's normal. What's not normal is what happens next. The jet leaves the deck but doesn't gain altitude. Witnesses on the bridge describe seeing the nose dip toward the water. Both crew members eject. The canopy blows off, the rocket seats fire, and 2 human beings are launched upward at 14 Gs. Their spines compress. Their vision blacks out. They splash down 400 feet from the ship. The jet hits the water nose first and sinks within seconds. Both crew members are recovered alive, but the pilot suffers 3 compressed vertebrae. He will never fly a fighter jet again. Another $70 million on the ocean floor. July 2022. This time, the Pacific Ocean. The details of the third incident are less public. The Navy has been tight-lipped. What we know is this. An F/A-18E was conducting training operations off a carrier, reportedly the USS Abraham Lincoln. During a routine maneuver, the aircraft experienced what the Navy called a mechanical malfunction during flight operations. The pilot ejected safely. The aircraft was lost. $70 million. Number 3. 3 jets. 6 months. $210 million. Multiple injuries. Multiple investigations. And the American public barely heard about it. Here's why that matters. The Navy's investigation into these incidents revealed a pattern that should concern every American taxpayer. Finding number 1. Crew fatigue. Carrier deployments have gotten longer. What used to be 6 months is now 7, 8, sometimes 9 months at sea. Flight operations run 18 hours a day. Pilots fly back-to-back sorties. Maintenance crews work in shifts that violate the Navy's own rest guidelines. A 2021 Government Accountability Office report found that naval aviators were getting an average of 5.8 hours of sleep per night during deployment. The minimum recommended is 8. Finding number 2, maintenance pressure. The average FA-18 Super Hornet in the fleet is over 20 years old. Parts are hard to get. Maintenance takes longer than it should, but the operational schedule doesn't change. So crews cut corners, not because they want to, because they have to. In 2021, the Navy's own data showed that only about 53% of Super Hornets were mission-capable at any given time. That means nearly half the fleet is broken, waiting for parts, or in maintenance. Finding number 3, operational tempo. Since 2014, the Navy has been running at a pace designed for wartime, but there's no war. This is peacetime operations, training, patrols, presence missions, NATO commitments. The ships are wearing out. The people are wearing out, and jets are falling into the ocean. Let's zoom out. The United States Navy operates 11 aircraft carriers. Each one carries between 44 and 90 aircraft. The total fleet of Super Hornets is around 540 aircraft. Losing 3 in 6 months might sound like a rounding error, but it's not. Because every jet lost is a jet that can't be replaced quickly. Boeing builds about 24 new Super Hornets per year. Every crash sets the fleet back. And it's not just Super Hornets. In fiscal year 2022, the Navy and Marine Corps lost a total of 8 aircraft in Class A mishaps, incidents involving death, permanent disability, or damage exceeding $2 million. The total cost of those 8 incidents exceeded $500 million. And here's the number that should keep Pentagon planners up at night. Since 2013, the Navy has lost more aircraft to accidents than to any adversary. More jets have crashed, sunk, or been written off due to mishaps than have been damaged by enemy action in the entire global war on terror. The Navy isn't losing jets to China. It's not losing them to Russia. It's losing them to exhaustion, underfunding, and the relentless grind of keeping 11 carrier strike groups operational around the clock, around the world, 365 days a year. The question isn't whether another jet will be lost. The question is when. 3 fighter jets, $210 million, multiple injured crew members, and a pattern that hasn't been fixed. The Navy says it's addressing the problems: more funding for maintenance, better rest policies, new training protocols. But as of today, the operational tempo hasn't slowed down. If anything, with rising tensions in the Pacific and ongoing commitments in Europe and the Middle East, it's getting faster. The men and women on those flight decks are doing their best with what they've got. But what they've got isn't enough. If you found this story important, subscribe. We're covering the stories the military doesn't want trending. Next week, we'll look at what life is really like for the 5,000 sailors living inside an aircraft carrier. It's not what you think. I'll see you then.